Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to revise the section B of Combined Science paper 2 that was written by November 2025 candidates. Before we dive into the revision of the section B of Combined Science paper 2, first of all, I have a great news for you. If you are a student looking for support in Maths and Combined Science for your June 2026 exam, I have got just the thing for you. My online lessons are starting on 1 November and I'm offering a fantastic opportunity to get ahead of the game. My online lessons will cover Combined Science 7 to 8 p.m., Mathematics from 8 to 9 p.m., and the best part of it is just $10 per month per subject. So if you are interested in learning more, feel free to reach out. Now let us get started with our today's revision. So this was the number 7 of Combined Science that was written by November 2025 candidates. So the question is reading, answer in 2 questions in the answer booklet provided. We are going to answer all the questions since we are doing our revision. So it was reading, Fig 7.1 shows the alimentary canal. Name the part that is labeled A and B. So A, let me label it. This is known as the duodenum. So this is the correct spelling, duodenum. So the part that is labeled A is known as the duodenum. And then we are having the part that is labeled B. It is known as the colony, or you write the large intestine. Either you write the colon or you write large intestine, because the other name for the large intestine is the colony. And then we now need to proceed to part 2. Describe stating the enzyme involved in one digestive process which occurs in C. So this is the ileum, or the small intestine. The final stages of digestion and absorption, they take place in the ileum. So we are going to have the enzyme that is known as the maltase. It breaks down the maltose into the glucose. We also have the peptides, which break down the peptides. These are short chains of amino acids into individual amino acids. So this is the final stage of protein digestion before absorption into the bloodstream. So I will just write a few notes on a part 2 so that you can use the notes in the revision. So we said on a part 1, we talk about the duodenum. And then the part that is labeled, this is A, right? And then colony, or the large intestine, is the part that is labeled B. So this is how we answer the first part of the question. And then describe stating the enzyme involved in one digestive process which occurs in the ileum. So in the ileum, this is now part 2. In the ileum, the final stages of digestion and absorption takes place. So we have the enzyme known as the maltase, right? This is the enzyme. It is involved in the conversion of maltose to glucose. So this is how we answer the next part of the question. And also, we are having an enzyme that is known as the peptides. The peptidase is involved in breaking down of peptides into amino acids. So the peptide are broken down into amino acids. So these are some of the processes that occur in the ileum. So that is how we answer the next part of the question. So can we get back to our question? Next question, we are now required to define the term variation. So there is a space here I can answer here. Define the term variation. So when we are saying variation, this is a difference in characteristic or traits between individual of the same species. These differences, they can be genetic and environmental. So let me give a summary of what I'm describing here. We are saying variation, it is differences. It is the differences in characteristics or traits between individual of same species. Between individuals of the same species, right? So this is the definition of variation. And then on part 2, explain 2 ways by which the environment can cause variation among the organisms, right? So the ways in which the environment can cause variation among the organism, we have the diet or nutrition, right? So this one, it affects the body size, weight, and health. So the diet, it affects the body size. It also affects the weight. It also affects the health. So we can also talk about the climate, right? This is environmental effect, climate. So the climate, the temperature and sunlight can influence the skin. If you are staying where it is hot, your skin is going to be darkened. And then if you are staying where there is cold temperatures, your skin is going to be lightened. So the climate, temperature, it can affect the skin. It can affect the skin. We can also talk about the pollution. Pollution can cause mutation or development changes, right? So we are done with the question that was on number 7 in November 2025. We can now proceed to number 8. So number 8, it was a question on human heart. Fig 8.1 shows the human heart. Name the parts A and B. So A, it is known as the right atrium. And then the next one, B, this is known as the left ventricle. Right, and then describe the function of tricuspid valve. So this is our tricuspid valve. Can you see that it is located between the right atrium and the right ventricle of the heart? The main role of the tricuspid is to ensure one-way blood flow from the right atrium to the right ventricle. It prevents the backflow of blood into the right atrium when the right ventricle contracts. So the main function of the tricuspid valve, it is to ensure the one-way blood flow from the right atrium to the right ventricle. So we can write it on our answers so that it can help you in your revision. So this is number 8, part 2. We are required to give the function of tricuspid valve. It ensures one-way flow of blood from right atrium to right ventricle. It prevents the backflow of blood into the right atrium when the right ventricle contracts. And it is very important to mention this: prevent backflow of blood. So that was all about the part 2 of the question. We can go back to the question. We are now required to give the function of heart. So the main function of heart is to pump blood throughout the body. It delivers the oxygen and nutrients to body tissues and also remove carbon dioxide and waste products. So when we are writing the function of heart, let me write the function of blood. The function of heart. This is part 3. The main function of heart is to pump blood throughout the body. So make sure that you explain that it delivers oxygen and nutrients to the body tissues, and also it allows the removal of waste products like the carbon dioxide. It is supposed to be part of the explanation, right? Let us scroll back again so that we see the next question. Next question on B part 1, it is saying state the function of xylem vessels, right? The xylem vessels, they are mainly involved in the transportation of water and dissolved mineral salts from the roots to the leaves and other part of the plant. It also provides the mechanical support to plants due to the thick walls. So the question was having 1 mark. So if you just state transportation of water and dissolved mineral salts, and make sure that you explain where the water is coming from and where it is going. Don't just say transportation of water. You're supposed to give where it is coming from and where it is going. So here, let us scroll to our answers. We are now on B part 1, right? So this is B part 1. On B part 1, we are required to give the function of xylem vessels. It is transport of water and mineral salts this is from the leaves, from the roots to the leaves. And then let us see the next question. Next question is now saying, describe how plants absorb water from the soil. 4 marks. So you are supposed to give a detailed explanation for you to get all the 4 marks. So let us go to our answers and summarize B part 2. So water enters the root hairs by osmosis, as water in the soil is higher than in the root cell sap. So I'll just give a summary here because I can't write everything. So the first point, we are supposed to mention about the osmosis, which is allowing the movement of water from the root hair cells. Water is moving from root hair cells sorry, water is let me correct. It is not coming from the root hair cells, but it is coming from the soil. So we are saying the water from soil, it enters root hair cells through the process of osmosis, right? And then after that, the water moves from cell to cell through the cortex of root by osmosis. This is known as the apoplast pathway. So we need to explain about the apoplast pathway. So when we are explaining about the apoplast pathway, this is the movement from cell to cell of water by the process of osmosis, right? And then after that, the water reaches the xylem vessels where it is transported upward to the stem. So you need to mention about the xylem vessels. So you explain that water reaches the xylem vessels where it is transported upward to the stem and leaves by the transpiration poo. You're supposed to explain about them. Transpiration poo. So that is the one that causes the water to move upwards. And also we are going to have the capillary action and also the root pressure. So mention about the capillary action, and also you talk about the root pressure. So let me explain again. The question was saying, let us go back to the question. It was saying, describe how plants absorb water from the soil formats. So water enters the root hair cells by osmosis, as water in the soil is higher than in the root cell sap. Water moves from cell to cell through the cortex of root by osmosis or via cell wall, and this is known as the apoplast pathway. And then water reaches the xylem vessels where it is transported upward to the stem and leaves by the transpiration poo, capillary action, and also the root pressure. By explaining this way, you get all your 4 marks. And then lastly, in section B, candidates were required to define the term biodiversity. It was having 1 mark. So biodiversity, it is a variety of all living organisms on Earth, including different plants, animals, microorganisms, and the ecosystem they form. So when you are giving your definition, we are now on number 9, right? We are required to define the biodiversity. So we are saying it is a variety of all living organisms. So these living organisms, they include including different plants, different plants, animals, microorganisms, and also ecosystem they form. So this is the definition of a biodiversity. So let me explain again. Biodiversity is the variety of all living organisms on Earth, including different plants, animals, microorganisms, and the ecosystem they form, right? And then let us see the second part of the question. On number 9, the second part of the question, it was saying, give in to advantages of biodiversity. The question was having 2 marks. So we are now on part 2 of the question. Advantages of biodiversity. They are more resilient. So when we are saying more resilient, we mean diverse ecosystems are more resilient and can recover better from disturbances. The biodiversity, they provide food, medicine, timber, and raw materials. So they provide medicine. We can also get the timber, the food we want to eat, and also other raw materials. We get this from the biodiversity. And also it helps to maintain clean air, and soil through the natural processes that will be occurring. It also supports agriculture, and fishing industries. So these are some of the advantages of biodiversity. So we said diverse ecosystems are more resilient and can recover better from disturbances. They provide food, medicine, timber, and raw materials, help to maintain clean air, water, soil through the natural processes. It also supports agriculture, tourism, and fishing industries. So now we need to proceed to the next question. We are now required to suggest one long-term effect of pesticides use on the environment. So let us go to the answers. We are now on part 3, right? Suggest one long-term effect of pesticide use on environment. So you need to talk about the soil degradation, it can kill beneficial soil organism, reducing the soil fertility. We can talk about the runoff, which can contaminate the rivers, lakes, and groundwater. So this is water pollution. So when you are now explaining about water pollution, you talk about the runoff contaminating the river, lakes, and groundwater. There is also loss of biodiversity. So the pest also may develop resistance, making pesticides less effective over time. So you need to talk about pesticide resistance. So these are some of the disadvantages of use of pesticides. Soil degradation, it can kill beneficial soil microorganisms, reducing the soil fertility. Runoff can contaminate the rivers, lakes, and groundwater. There is loss of biodiversity. Pests may develop resistance, making pesticides less effective over time. We are now proceeding to part B of the question. Part B of the question was saying state N2 effects of malnutrition, and then part C, explain N2 dietary requirements for a pregnant woman. So B, it was having 2 marks, and then C, it was having 4 marks. So we can proceed to our answer sheet. We are now on B part 1. 2 effects of malnutrition. We talk about the standard growth in children. So when we are defining malnutrition, it is not always about the lack. You are supposed to talk about the either lack or excessive of a certain nutrient, right? So the malnutrition, it results in standard growth in children. There is also weak immune system. Weak immune system. So the weak immune system, it leads to frequent infections, and also there is muscle wasting. Muscle wasting and general weakness. These are some of the effects of malnutrition. There's also poor wound healing. So there are so many effects of malnutrition. These are some of the effects of malnutrition. And then finally on part C, we are now required to give nutrients requirement for a pregnant woman. So on part C, that is where we talk about it is the diet of a pregnant woman. It is supposed to have the proteins, right? Proteins, for example, meat, beans, eggs. This is from the growth of tissues, cells, and bones for the new baby growing in the womb. So we are saying the diet of a pregnant woman, it is supposed to have the proteins. Proteins is obtained from meat, beans, eggs. This is needed for growth of tissues, cells, and bones. And also, it is supposed to have iron. Iron is important in order to prevent anemia. This is going to prevent anemia. So it supports the increased blood volume that is needed. Iron prevents ammonia, and also it supports increased blood volume. The diet of pregnant mother, it is supposed to have calcium. Calcium is very important for developing. This is very important for developing babies' bones and teeth. And also the pregnant mother, she's supposed to stay hydrated, so she needs water to stay hydrated and support increased blood volume. The diet is supposed to have the folic acid. Folic acid is very important for preventing birth defects, especially in the first few weeks of the pregnancy. Also, your diet is supposed to have the vitamin D. This is very important as it helps to the body to absorb the calcium. So when you are explaining the diet for a pregnant mother, you're supposed to say, to explain why you are suggesting a certain nutrient. For example, here we said the proteins. This is going to support growth of new tissues, cells, and bones. Iron is needed to prevent anemia and support increased blood volume. Calcium for developing babies' bones, teeth, e.g., milk, cheese. Water in order to stay hydrated and support increased blood volume. The folic acid is there for preventing the birth defects, especially in the first few weeks. Vitamin D, it helps to the body to absorb the calcium. So this was the section B of November 2025 Combined Science Paper 2 session. So I will provide my number so that if you want to join my online lessons, you can contact me on 0776 824159. This marks the end of our session today. Thank you so much for following me on this channel.